In the high-stakes world of the NFL, players push themselves to their physical and mental limits to achieve greatness on the field. But sometimes, the pressures, temptations, and decisions made off the field can lead down dark paths. In today's video, we're diving into the stories of NFL players whose lives took shocking turns as they became involved in criminal activities that left lasting impacts on their careers, reputations, and even their freedom. These are tales of promise derailed by choices that led to scandal, regret, and in many cases, prison time. Grab your seat as we explore how these players, once cheered by thousands, found themselves in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Darryl Henley's criminal downfall is one of the darkest stories in NFL history, showing how a promising life in professional sports can become entangled in a world of crime, betrayal, and ultimately, violence. Henley started his football journey as a highly regarded cornerback at UCLA, where he excelled and helped the Bruins to the 1986 Pac-10 championship. Known for his speed and natural athletic ability, he was selected in the second round of the 1989 NFL Draft by the Los Angeles Rams, where he played for 5 seasons, amassing tackles and interceptions and carving out a name for himself as a solid defender. However, off the field, Henley's life took a very different trajectory. By the early 1990s, he became involved in a network of drug traffickers, working with criminal associates to finance and distribute cocaine. Darryl Henley's involvement in drug trafficking ran deep, extending well beyond a casual association and into a full-blown operation. After joining the Los Angeles Rams and becoming a respected cornerback in the NFL, Henley gradually found himself lured by the lucrative world of drug trafficking, using his financial resources and public status to help smuggle significant quantities of cocaine across the United States. Henley partnered with a group of major drug traffickers, financing deals and working as a key middleman in a network that spanned several states. He invested his NFL earnings into the operation, hoping to profit from the high-stakes trade while also serving as a point of contact. Henley allegedly used his reputation as a pro football player to move under the radar, avoiding the typical scrutiny that law enforcement often gives to known criminal entities. But as the operation grew, so did the authorities' awareness, and his connection to the drug ring came to light. During the investigation, federal agents uncovered Henley's ties to shipments of cocaine that were being transported across state lines. Evidence linked him to activities that included organizing logistics and financing drug deals, making him a central figure in the trafficking chain. His participation in this operation ultimately led to his arrest and a conviction for conspiracy to distribute cocaine. In court, prosecutors detailed how Henley's actions had gone well beyond simple mistakes and into a life of deliberate criminality. Following his conviction and the beginning of his prison sentence, Henley's involvement in the drug trade led him to an even darker chapter. In a desperate move to protect himself, he planned to eliminate key figures in his legal case, including a judge and a witness, to prevent them from speaking further or retaliating. Caught in an FBI sting operation, the hitman plot only deepened Henley's criminal reputation, resulting in an additional 21-year sentence on top of his existing term, turning what was initially a 20-year sentence into a near-life imprisonment. Art Schlitter's life is a stark and sobering tale of immense talent derailed by an all-consuming addiction. At Ohio State, Schlitcher was a prodigy, a 4-year starting quarterback with a powerful arm and natural leadership, a player who seemed destined to find success at the next level. Drafted 4th overall by the Baltimore Colts in 1982, he arrived in the NFL with high expectations, primed to become a franchise player. But behind this bright facade was a darker reality. Schlitcher was already deeply entangled in a gambling addiction that would quickly overshadow his career. In his rookie season, Schlitcher burned through his signing bonus, losing tens of thousands of dollars in bets. His losses mounted, and soon he was borrowing to cover his debts. The Colts and NFL authorities became aware of his situation, and after a series of incidents, the NFL suspended Schlitcher for the 1983 season. Despite being reinstated, he never managed to fulfill the promise of his early days, and his career fizzled out after just a few seasons. His gambling, however, only intensified. Over the years, Schlitter's life became a cycle of desperate attempts to fund his addiction. Even after football, he continued to rack up debt through fraudulent schemes, borrowing from family, friends, and even acquaintances under false pretenses. By the late 80s, he was routinely in and out of prison on charges of forgery, fraud, and theft. Each time he was released, he relapsed, digging himself deeper into the same destructive patterns. In 2011, Schlitcher orchestrated a massive ticket fraud scheme, preying on sports fans eager to secure seats at marquee marquee events. He sold fake tickets to Super Bowls, the Final Four, and other major games, scamming millions of dollars from his victims. This high-profile crime led to another conviction and an 11-year prison sentence. Even after his release, Schlitcher struggled to avoid the pitfalls of his addiction, returning to prison multiple times on parole violations and further legal trouble. Today, Art Schlitcher's name serves as a grim reminder of how addiction can dismantle even the most promising lives. His story underscores the dangers of unchecked compulsion and the devastation it can bring to individuals, families, and careers. What should have been a celebrated legacy in sports became a cautionary tale of potential wasted and lives disrupted, a story that feels all the more tragic for the talent lost along the way. Anthony Smith's life is one of the most haunting stories of an NFL player gone astray. Born in 1967, Smith grew up in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and developed into a powerhouse defensive end. Drafted in the first round by the Los Angeles Raiders in 1990, he quickly made an impact with his aggressive play style and formidable presence on the field. Over his 7-season career, Smith accumulated 57.5 sacks and developed a reputation as a feared pass rusher. But his ferocity on the field was only part of a much darker story that would unfold long after he left the NFL. Smith's troubles began to emerge soon after his retirement in 1998. A series of domestic violence accusations, financial issues, and minor run-ins with the law hinted at a life spiraling out of control. In 2003, he faced his first serious legal battle when he was arrested and charged with domestic violence and assault against his ex-wife, who later testified that Smith had subjected her to years of physical abuse. Despite these early warning signs, Smith avoided major repercussions and largely flew under the radar, continuing a quiet post-football life in Southern California. The first major legal issue that brought him back into the public eye came in 2008 when he was charged with arson. Smith was accused of setting fire to a rental property he owned, allegedly as an act of retaliation against tenants he felt had wronged him. Though he was acquitted in 2010 due to lack of conclusive evidence, authorities began taking a closer look at his past, particularly a series of unsolved violent crimes that seemed to fit a disturbing pattern. In 2011, Smith's life took a shocking turn when he was arrested for the murder of a man named Murillo Ponce, whose 2008 killing involved brutal torture and execution-style shooting. Investigators soon uncovered evidence linking Smith to 3 additional murders dating back to 1999, all involving similar patterns of cruelty and control. The victims were believed to have been tortured before being killed, and authorities argued that the crimes had been committed with premeditation, pointing to a calculated side of Smith that no one had seen before. The case painted a chilling picture, a former NFL star leading a double life capable of heinous acts far removed from the world of football. During the trial, prosecutors argued that Smith had meticulously carried out these violent crimes, with witness testimonies and physical evidence painting him as a dangerous predator. Smith maintained his innocence, but in 2016, after a lengthy trial, he was convicted of 3 murders and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Keith Wright's story is a stark departure from the career path expected of an NFL player. Born in 1980 in San Jose, California, Wright was a standout defensive tackle with an impressive physique and skill set that propelled him through high school and college football. After playing at the University of Missouri, where he was recognized as a formidable force on the defensive line, he entered the NFL as a 6th-round pick in the 2003 draft, chosen by the Houston Texans. His time in the league was brief, but included stints with the Indianapolis Colts, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Arizona Cardinals. Unfortunately, Wright's professional career failed to gain significant traction, and by 2005 he was out of the NFL and facing a vastly different reality. Wright's life post-football took a downward spiral that soon turned to crime. After his NFL career ended, he struggled to find stability, moving from one job to another and facing financial challenges. The former football player began turning to theft and burglary, reportedly seeking ways to make quick cash. By 2011, Wright's criminal activities had escalated. He was arrested and charged in connection with a series of armed robberies in California's Sacramento area. The crimes were violent and carefully planned, involving home invasions where he and accomplices would enter residences, tie up the occupants, and steal money, electronics, and other valuables. The sheer brutality of the robbery shocked investigators and the public alike. During one incident, Wright and his accomplices targeted a home, held the residents at gunpoint, and even took items like personal jewelry that held sentimental value. These invasions left the victims traumatized and fearful, as the invasions often took place late at night, leaving residents feeling unsafe in their own homes. The physical intimidation tactics Wright employed reflected a hardened side that seemed worlds away from his days on the gridiron. The investigation ultimately connected him to 6 home invasions in the area, and he was arrested in late 2011. In 2012, Wright faced trial for his crimes. The prosecution laid out a damning case, detailing his involvement in each robbery and emphasizing the traumatic impact on the victims. Wright, who had once been celebrated for his athletic prowess, was now portrayed as a dangerous criminal willing to use violence and intimidation to get what he wanted. The court found him guilty on 19 counts, including armed robbery, kidnapping, and false imprisonment, marking a definitive end to his life outside prison walls. Sentenced to 234 years to life in prison without the possibility of parole, Keith Wright's descent from NFL player to convicted felon was complete. His life story serves as a dark example of how far some athletes can fall when their careers end and personal struggles go unaddressed. Once a promising athlete with a future in professional sports, Wright became a cautionary tale of wasted potential. His legacy overshadowed by the criminal acts that forever altered his life and the lives of his victims. Brandon Browner's journey from undrafted free agent to 2-time Super Bowl champion is a story of grit, determination, and resilience, but it ultimately took a dark turn that marred his legacy. Born in Los Angeles, California, Browner went on to play college football at Oregon State. His size and physicality stood out, making him a force in the secondary. However, despite his potential, Browner went undrafted in the 2005 NFL Draft. He signed with the Denver Broncos, but suffered an arm injury that led to his release before he could see regular season action. Undeterred, Browner took his talents to the Canadian Football League, where he found success with the Calgary Stampeders, becoming a 3-time CFL All-Star and winning the Grey Cup in 2008. His strong performance in the CFL eventually led to an NFL comeback, and in 2011 he signed with the Seattle Seahawks. There, Browner became an integral part of the Legion of Boom, Seattle's feared secondary, alongside Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, and Earl Thomas. His physical play style and aggressive approach made him an asset, despite his susceptibility to penalties. Browner's play helped Seattle reach the pinnacle of success as the Seahawks dominated the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 48. His performance earned him a spot in the Pro Bowl in 2011, cementing his place as one of the NFL's top cornerbacks. After his stint in Seattle, Browner signed with the New England Patriots in 2014. He continued to excel, helping the Patriots win Super Bowl 49, ironically against his former team, the Seahawks. This made him one of the few players to win back-to-back Super Bowls with different teams. However, Browner's on-field success couldn't shield him from off-field issues. Known for his hard-hitting and physical play, he was frequently penalized and even suspended for violating the league's substance abuse policy. After a disappointing season with the New Orleans Saints in 2015, Browner's NFL career effectively ended. Following his NFL career, Browner's life took a troubling turn. In 2018, he was arrested for a series of serious charges, including attempted murder, stemming from a violent home invasion involving his former girlfriend. In a shocking downfall, Browner was sentenced to 8 years in prison after pleading no contest to attempted murder. His story stands as a cautionary tale of how quickly life can spiral out of control, even for those who have reached the heights of NFL stardom. Once celebrated as a Super Bowl champion, Browner's legacy now includes a tragic descent into criminal activity, overshadowing his achievements on the field. Robert Rozier's story is one of the most shocking tales of a professional athlete's post-career descent into crime and violence. Born in 1955 in Anchorage, Alaska, Rozier grew up in California and emerged as a talented football player. His athletic prowess earned him a place on the University of California's Golden Bears team, where he played as a defensive lineman. Though he showed promise, Rozier struggled with discipline and consistency. Despite these setbacks, he caught the attention of NFL scouts and was signed by the St. Louis Cardinals in 1979. Rozier's NFL career, however, was short-lived. Known for a lack of commitment, he clashed with team leadership and was eventually released. He spent time in the Canadian Football League and even had a brief stint in the USFL, but failed to find lasting success. Out of professional football by the early 1980s, Rozier faced an uncertain future. Lacking direction, he drifted through various jobs, each one shorter-lived than the last, until he eventually fell into a darker path that would define his life. By the mid-1980s, Rozier found himself drawn to a controversial religious cult led by Yahweh ben Yahweh, also known as Hulan Mitchell Jr. Yahweh ben Yahweh was the leader of the Nation of Yahweh, a group based in Miami that combined elements of religion with extreme teachings and paramilitary discipline. Rozier joined the group, adopting the name Nehariah Israel as part of his new identity. As a member of Yahweh's inner circle, Rozier quickly became enmeshed in the group's violent activities. The Nation of Yahweh was known for advocating brutal tactics to gain influence, targeting those they saw as threats or enemies to their cause. Rozier later admitted to killing multiple people on orders from Yahweh ben Yahweh. He described these murders as sacrifices, claiming that the group's leader instructed him and others to eliminate perceived enemies as a means of proving loyalty. Rozier's role in these crimes was primarily as an enforcer, carrying out murders that included seemingly random attacks on innocent victims. This shocking level of violence was meant to instill fear and solidify the nation's power. In total, Rozier confessed to 7 murders and was later implicated in several others as part of the group's criminal operations. In 1986, law enforcement finally caught up with the cult, leading to a high-profile investigation into the activities of Yahweh ben Yahweh and his followers. Rozier was arrested and eventually agreed to testify against Yahweh and other cult leaders in exchange for a lighter sentence. His testimony was instrumental in convicting Yahweh ben Yahweh, who was sentenced to prison in 1992 on charges that included conspiracy and racketeering. Rozier, as part of his plea agreement, received a reduced sentence and entered the witness protection program upon release. Unfortunately, Rozier's criminal activities didn't end there. After moving to California under a new identity, he was arrested in 1999 for check fraud, which violated his parole. Due to California's strict 3 strikes law, he was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Robert Rozier's story remains one of the most disturbing examples of a former athlete's descent into crime, showcasing how deeply he became involved in a life of violence and extremism, leading to a permanent fall from the promising career he once had in the NFL. Nate Newton's story is a cautionary tale about how success on the field doesn't always translate to success off it. Born in Orlando, Florida in 1961, Newton was a big man with an even bigger presence. Standing at 6'3" and weighing well over 300 pounds, he quickly made a name for himself in football. Despite his talent, he went undrafted in the NFL. Undeterred, he took a less traditional route to the NFL by first joining the USFL's Tampa Bay Bandits before eventually getting signed by the Dallas Cowboys in 1986. It was here that he would make a name for himself as an essential part of one of the NFL's most famous offensive lines. Nicknamed the Kitchen for his size, Newton became an anchor of the Cowboys' O-line. Over his 14-year career, he made 6 Pro Bowls and won 3 Super Bowls with the Cowboys in the 1990s. Known for his blocking ability and powerful play, he protected the likes of Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin, helping them and the Cowboys' offense achieve record-breaking success. Newton's career on the field was decorated, and he was loved by fans for his grit and larger-than-life personality. But despite all his achievements, Newton struggled with discipline and decision-making off the field. After retiring, Newton faced challenges in adjusting to life outside the game. He ventured into business, investing in several small ventures, but eventually found himself in financial trouble. Unfortunately, Newton turned to illegal activities to support himself. In 2001, he was arrested twice in less than 2 months, both times for transporting massive quantities of marijuana. His first arrest came in Louisiana, where police found him with 213 pounds of marijuana in a van he was driving. Remarkably, a little over a month later, he was arrested again in Texas with another 175 pounds. Newton later admitted he was involved in drug trafficking, saying he was chasing easy money after the end of his football career. Newton's arrest and subsequent conviction were shocking, especially given his high-profile status and the respect he had earned during his football career. He was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison, which forced him to confront his actions and choices. During his time in prison, Newton underwent a personal transformation. Reflecting on his mistakes, he found religion and vowed to turn his life around. After his release, he became involved in community outreach, sharing his story to warn others about the dangers of poor decision-making and the consequences of choosing the wrong path. Adam Pac-Man Jones, known for his explosive athleticism on the field, had a career marred by numerous legal issues that began almost as soon as he entered the NFL. Drafted 6th overall by the Tennessee Titans in 2005, Jones was expected to become one of the league's premier cornerbacks. However, his off-field behavior quickly overshadowed his talent and derailed his career repeatedly. Jones's first arrest came in 2005, the year he was drafted, when he was involved in an altercation at a Nashville nightclub. This incident foreshadowed a string of run-ins with the law. In 2006, he was arrested multiple times, including charges for disorderly conduct and public intoxication. He was also accused of spitting on a woman at a nightclub. These incidents led to a warning from the NFL, which implemented stricter personal conduct policies in response to Jones's actions. The turning points came in 2007 when Jones was involved in a notorious Las Vegas nightclub incident. While attending the NBA All-Star Weekend, Jones and his entourage went to a strip club where he reportedly instigated a violent confrontation by making it rain with cash, prompting a chaotic scene. During the incident, Jones allegedly assaulted a dancer and threatened a security guard. Shortly after, shots were fired outside the club, injuring 3 people, including a bouncer who was left paralyzed. Though Jones denied responsibility for the shooting, he was linked to the altercation and suspended by the NFL for the entire 2007 season. Despite his suspension, Jones continued to find himself in legal trouble. He faced more charges in 2008, including an altercation with his bodyguard and accusations of failing to pay debts. When he returned to the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys, the team imposed a strict conduct policy on him, hoping it would help him stay out of trouble. However, his stint with the Cowboys was short-lived, as he was involved in yet another incident, this time a scuffle in a hotel bathroom with a bodyguard assigned by the team to keep him out of trouble. In 2010, Jones signed with the Cincinnati Bengals, hoping for a fresh start. Though he had several productive years on the field, his off-field behavior continued to raise concerns. He was arrested in 2011 on charges of disorderly conduct, and in 2013 he was involved in an altercation with a woman who accused him of assault. Jones claimed self-defense and later pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor. Over the years, Jones's career became a balancing act between his undeniable talent and his inability to stay out of trouble. The NFL repeatedly fined and suspended him, and his legal troubles impacted his reputation significantly. Despite his numerous second chances, Jones struggled to overcome his pattern of behavior. He played for 13 years in the league, but had a reputation for being one of the craziest players ever when it came to his off-the-field behavior. Those are just a few of the NFL players who have been dumb enough to absolutely tarnish their legacy with outrageous behavior that is totally inexcusable. If you enjoyed this format of video and want to see another one, then be sure to let us know in the comment section down below. Unfortunately, there are a ton more players who have done equally stupid things, if not worse, and we could easily make another one of these videos if it's something you guys want to see. Thank you for watching, and have an amazing day.